Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Well, here I go again. I bought another tree, and let me know if this sounds familiar. Um, I had to go to the Home Depot, just for some wood screws or something. Very targeted trip, and I went in and I'm like, you know what? I'll just quickly go through the clearance section because sometimes they have some great deals there. And in my defense, I often have really good willpower. But I went in there, and I saw this portulacaria afra, which is a variety I love working with, and I don't have one of these. And I looked at the price, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a pretty good price." And then, the manager said, "Well, those are half off." So I literally couldn't pass it up. So what did I pay for this? Well, here you go, $9.98 divided by two. Let's call it $5, and that works out to about $1 a tree. And you know, this is a elephant bush mammoth, which I don't have. And look at the trunks on this. I mean, you can see in comparison to my finger. I couldn't pass it up, and I did exercise some willpower. They had three of these, and I only bought one. But my idea here is we're going to do bonsai on the cheap, and I am going to do a forest with these wonderful plants for a total of less than $25. I gotta confess, I'm an avid viewer. I love to watch the $50 bonsai challenge. You should definitely check that out. Google it, or I'll put a link in the video description. But I'm not sure this would qualify because there are a bunch of rules. I'm not gonna butcher his last name, but Jason H actually has some comments on a video he did where you have to buy, I guess, all the elements in the same place or something like that. And so, yeah, I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to try to cut that $50 fee in half and see what we come out with. So stay tuned and check it out. It's probably going to be a long video, but I guarantee you it will be worth it. So here we go. This is Tom's less than $50, no rules bonsai challenge. So the first thing I'm going to do is I call this the bonsai massage, right? You kind of give a little shiatsu massage to the bonsai and get it nice and relaxed before we begin the work. I found this is critical, and then the tree and the plants will come right out of the pot. And look at those roots! Wow, this thing has really been in this pot for a while. So the first thing I like to do in a project like this is sort of work down the topsoil and figure out where the base of these trees are, because I want to sort of know what kind of any nabari do we have, and I want to get rid of a lot of these roots, but trust me, I learned this lesson the hard way and just kind of blindly cut half off and chopped the entire top of the tree off. It was a juniper, but yeah, so you only do that once. So you really want to figure out where is the base of this thing. And they're probably all similar. I'm pulling out all the stops with all my tools here. I saw I had my single root hook, which I really like for initially getting in there. I use this for kind of finer stuff, and I like the spatula in the end. But you kind of want to be gentle here. These trees can take a lot, but you want to do as little damage as possible. But you can see there's a lot of just. It looks like peat moss, topsoil here, so I'm super excited to get these guys into some better soil and go from there. Now I got the spoon, just kind of trying to find the base of these trees. So you can see here I'm kind of working in. I almost have the base of this tree. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's pretty close to where we've dug down here, which was at least a few inches. And just try to gently clear that out. There's probably not going to be a lot of surface roots or anything. They tend to have gone deep on this. But like I said, the goal is to figure out where the base of these guys are, and then try to get them separated. As I said, we're going to build a amazing forest with this fabulous material. It's got nice thick trunks. It's already got some wood on it. And so we'll have to separate these trees, and they can be quite intertwined in material like this. It looks like this was just put in a pot and just let go wild. Here you can see these roots it's It's probably only going to have roots on one side because it's right up against the edge of the pot, which is a common thing. But yeah, so we'll find the base, and then we'll get a little more serious about this. I should also mention this tree's been in my care for I think a couple of weeks. When I first got it, it was really dried out, which is why in the clearance section, you're usually taking on some tough characters there. Boy, look at these roots in the base. Wow, super thick. So, but yeah, so I had to, I've just let it recover for a couple of weeks. And now, we're taking that next step. I'm just kind of testing this. Sometimes I just use my spatula and just cut off the roots, but this is a bit tough on this one because these are some serious roots and the spatula is not going to cut it. So we'll go to plan B on that. Just trying to find my kind of loppers that I use here. I know they're here somewhere. And yeah, what we're going to do here, I'm just going to cut the bottom of this root ball. Stuff I know I don't need because I would just reduce it anyway. It just makes it, I don't want to untangle all that because I know I'm going to cut it anyway. I'll just take it off and just kind of cut it right down. And yeah, I think these are old loppers. I swear I've had these for 30 years, and I sharpen them every couple of years, but they're great for stuff like this because I just kind of get in there and cut it back, and I think the roots were mostly on the outside, they kind of went down the side and just started coiling around. But I always find this is a good step, find the base, so you make sure you're not cutting off more than you think you are. And then, reduce the root ball. We're going to take a lot more roots off, more than likely, to get these trees into the pot. And I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, just cut off the base. And yeah, look at that. We've got some thick roots in here. So, I'm not familiar with this specific variety of portulacaria afra, so I don't know, how quickly these grow. And now I'm just going to start teasing away at the roots to try to separate these plants. And it doesn't look like it'll be too bad. They seem loose already. I mean, I just have to sort of get in here and disentangle these roots and get each tree out on its own. I love this tool for this fine work. It has a sharp edge, and it's sort of like, it's kind of pointy at the end and then kind of gets fatter. But it's metal, and I find you can really pull things apart and it doesn't tear like some other tools I've used, because you're really working with one piece and you really get in there. So I love this, and I really recommend you get one of these. You can really get in there and clear out soil and separate things, and they're pretty cheap. I think I got this on eBay. It's from Japan. It's a Japanese tool. Again, I've had this one for 30 years, probably more, and yeah, it's just a great tool. So look at that. Tree number 1. And it looks pretty good. Look at that nice trunk. And we've got some roots there, which we'll be working on shortly. And we got the first guy in the lineup. This one's a little smaller. I'm going to just use my spoon to try to tease this one apart too. But what I found is once you get it rolling, it's easy to keep moving and they come apart pretty easily. It seems a little daunting when you first start out, but with each step it gets a little easier. And we have another tree free. It's also got some nice roots. You can see the leaves look pretty healthy in this, right? As I said, I allowed it to recover, and it's just been enjoying water and sun. And they're moving fast now. This one popped right out. I always find the fingers are good too. Just if you're not worried about getting a little dirt under your fingernails or keep them short, you can do that. And yeah, we're down to the last 2 trees, and they just came right apart. I was thinking about washing these, but I think the soil, it's coming out pretty easily. So we'll see. I think we'll do some root pruning next. Where I really want to flatten these out because they're going in a forest and not like a super shallow pot. I don't think, but they've got a lot of roots that are going straight down, and actually has pretty good radial roots in many cases from first glance here. So I think this is truly a gem. Like I don't think I've gotten trees for $5 like this in a very very long time. So I'm just combing as much of the soil out of this as I can. Um, and I'm kind of being a little rough on it, but it doesn't appear to be tearing. I mean, I'm wondering, this variety seems to have pretty strong roots. And I have noticed this variety seems to have longer internodes, but and look at that. It's got a nice nabari, but we do have a bunch of stuff just going straight down that I'm just gonna cut off. And normally when you cut like this, because some of these are pretty big on the bottom, and I'm just gonna saw it flat, which I often do for new material that I'm initially putting in a pot, because I want it to grow roots kind of laterally across the pot. But I want to flatten it out so it will sit nicely, and especially anything right under the right under the tree. But you want to leave some on there, but not much. Like I said, you want to encourage it to grow lateral roots. And that's looking pretty good. And normally I would let these dry out for a few days, but I've had good luck. We're going to put it in really dry new soil, and so I'll just let it. I won't water it for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 days, and give those things a chance to heal. That tree looks pretty good from a root-based perspective, so let's move on to the next one. You can see as I'm clearing this one out, this one does not appear to be in as good a shape. It's got a lot of thick roots hanging down. So I'm just going to get the soil out of here, and we'll take care of it. You can see all these fine bits of stuff falling out, which is pretty common. I don't know what these were planted in. I think just kind of a loamy, peaty-based soil. But I'm just going to take my cutters here and just cut it right off flat like I did before. I'm going to try to save all the fine stuff and just get rid of this large stuff hanging down to try to get it flat. And you can see we have a lot of good fine feeder roots that are in good shape. So I think it'll recover reasonably quickly. This one still has some bulges here that I think I'm going to take off. Like I said, I will, normally I would want to allow this to dry because it's a pretty big wound here and we don't want to get root rot or anything setting in there. But I will be potting this up in extremely dry soil, and I will not water it for some period of time, as I mentioned before, until I'm, fairly confident that, these have dried up and they're not going to get root rot at the base, which you definitely do not want. And I usually figure that out. You can see the leaves are really healthy now, and I'll just allow them to get looking pretty wilty, which means the whole tree will be quite dry, and then we'll start watering. This is a nice big tree here. You can see as I'm clearing this out, there's a lot of vine roots on this one, and boy, they're really coming out radially all over the place. So, pretty impressed with the roots in general on these. I mean, for, bargain basement clearance sale items, I feel pretty lucky about this. It's a pretty well established kind of meaty material. I'm just trying to clear this out. And I don't see even any big thick roots here, but I definitely want to make the base flat. And again, encourage it to, not grow down, but grow out. And again, I'll be taking off a fair amount, so I'll allow this to dry out. That is reasonably flat. And I think even these are small enough that, when I put the tree in and set it in place, these roots will sort of flatten out And they kind of come down, which is kind of nice as well. But yeah, that is looking fabulous. Another tree ready to go. If I remember correctly, this one was on the edge, so it doesn't have a whole lot of roots. I'm going to get rid of this high root, and it sort of has an inverse taper going on, so I'll be dealing with that at some point. But there's not a lot on here, so we're not going to take much off this. But again, it's got lots of nice kind of fine roots, and it's pretty much ready to go. Just want to bounce some of this particulate matter out of there. And the last tree, looks pretty good. This is a smaller tree, and you can see it definitely has a couple of large, I don't know, I guess I'd call them tap roots. These are probably early roots that this thing shot out. And we're just going to cut those right off. Really just focusing on the ones that are going straight down and keeping the stuff that is going off to the side. Looks good. So there you go. We have quite a lineup here. You can see these 4 beautiful trees, and there are actually 5 ones kind of out of frame there. Look at that. Yeah, this is the one that has the that was near the edge of the pot, and this will probably be the main tree. We'll see. It has this. I may as well cut this off because that's not going to survive. It'll come off anyway, but I think we have some nice meaty trees here, and I'm very happy with where we are so far. And we're so far $5, count them, 5 into our project. And I think you'll agree we have some nice trees here with some decent nabari. And let's move on to the next phase of this project and figure out what sort of pot we can use. And I'm very excited, as a matter of fact, to show you the pot. I sort of stumbled upon an $8 pot that I think will just be absolutely perfect for this forest. And I'll go ahead and show it to you now. I'm going to flip over and clean this up a bit, and I'll be back in a minute. So here we go. Look at this beautiful blue pot. It's about a foot wide, nice and blue. I mean, I think it's got a nice angle. And oh, wait, what's that? What? Well, oh my goodness, this pot's broken. Yeah, that's why I got it for $8. My wife actually kind of laughed at me and said, "You bought a broken pot?" And of course I did buy a broken pot because I know how to fix pots. And I think this one will be pretty impressive. It's only in 3 pieces. Maybe I paid too much at $8. I don't know. But I won't take you through the whole process, but I have some other pots that I fixed on the channel. And I really thought this is just a perfect opportunity to work some kintsugi into my less than $25 bonsai project. So let's get to work on that right now. So I won't show you the entire process, just the high level stuff. So the first thing, you want to clean off the pieces here. Just get rid of loose dust, because we're basically going to take some epoxy with gold glitter in it and repair this thing. And so you want it, I don't wash it with water. I just kind of brush it off and make sure there's no loose particulate there. And I use a fair amount of epoxy, so I haven't really had problems doing it this way. You could even take a rag and just wipe it down, but you want to make sure it's somewhat clean, I guess is what I'd say. Now I didn't notice a chop on this pot, but you can see it has this kind of distinctive, I don't know, wood-like texture on the bottom, which I actually like. I think it helps the roots grab a hold. And I have another pot that has this same style on it. So I don't know if anyone has any information about this. Please comment on the video, because that one also doesn't have a chop. But I'm thinking, well, clearly it's from somebody that does this, and I'm curious to know where this pot might be from. So the next step in this process for me is just sort of put something down, because this glue and glitter is just messy stuff, and then just kind of lay the pieces together so you're quite sure, how they're going to go together. Because once you start using the glue, it's sort of a time-sensitive thing. You have maybe 5 minutes before it's set, so you don't have a lot of time. So you want to measure twice, 3 times, and cut once. And then I just use foil and something like this. I'm going to mix the concoction here, which I'll show you in a second, and then we will get on the road. So I got all my supplies out here, the epoxy, and I've got some, I like to use paintbrushes. I find it's easy. You can get like a huge kit of them on Amazon for, they send you like 20 of them for like $3 or something. And then the glitter, and what we're going to do is we'll just mix this stuff in this little vat, and we will paint these sections and press them together. And then be very patient. I like to let it, dry for a good day or so before I start doing anything with it. Yeah, that's about all there is to it. And so I will skip ahead a bit more and show you how that goes. So here we go. I've got the epoxy. I squirted some in there. I put a few dabs of the gold glitter in. I don't really measure it. I just kind of wing it. Maybe it's 1/3 gold glitter, 2/3 epoxy, if I had to guess. And you just mix it up. And this stuff does stink, so you sort of want to do it outside or not breathe it or something, because I'm sure it's not good to be breathing this stuff. But you can see it's quite beautiful. Like you get a nice kind of a glue slurry, which we are going to put this pot back together, just like Humpty Dumpty. So I just do it like this and just kind of paint it on. You want to go kind of thick with it, because you can imagine we're going to push this on to the other side. And you actually do want it to sort of squeeze out and sort of seal outside of, where you've glued the two pieces together. And boy, this gold looks really good with this blue. And I'm really happy with that. And then, you do a lot of touch-up work too. So this is there's a lot of finessing with this, right? You sort of get it together. And then I usually take another paintbrush and mix up some more of this. And again, you can only work in 5-minute segments, so it's a little challenging. But, it's not impossible. But anyway, I'll go back and sort of fill in cracks and do a lot of fine detail work. And I find that, you sort of do the initial gluing, and then I think about 2 more after allowing it to dry to really get it looking, how you might want it to look, to get it a nice, neat look where there are no cracks. And, it looks quite good when you do that. But you can see it's sort of dripping down. And, yeah, and now the time critical piece. You don't want to waste. Haste makes waste in this situation. You want to kind of know exactly what you're going to do and move quickly. So I'm just about out of glue here. I think I just got lucky there and just happened to have the right amount. I'm just taking a final. You can kind of gauge it a bit. I can tell. It sort of feels a little sticky, and that's about the time when I know, okay, need to get this thing together. And this is a critical time, you sort of want to just push these pieces together. And, you kind of feel it lock in where the pot, it's in its natural position, and you have a little time to work with it. To get it dialed right in. And then you also, of course, you can see that large crack that I didn't have quite enough glue in there to fill it in, but I'll come back in a second pass and totally cover that up. And boy, you can see here, I really needed to measure twice and cut once, because I've got that piece on the side over there. I'm just noticing it's got glue on it. And so now it's going to be a race against time for me to mix up another batch and get some glue on the other surface, which is out of camera right now, and get that last piece in there. But let me push this in and feel good about this. You can see it's much tighter now. Got some glue squirting out. And I will quickly race the clock here to mix up another batch of epoxy and finish this. Yeah, so I'll put in some glue, and boy, you know what I really need for this is I need some Mission Impossible music, you know, dun 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 dun. Because I don't know how long it's been. 3 minutes. I mean, maybe I have 45 seconds. Like this stuff does really thicken up pretty quickly, but I will go as fast as I can and try to get just the right amount here, and get some glue on that last surface. And yeah, I think it's about go time here. I'm gonna paint that in. And like I said, I usually do it a few times, so my goal now is, especially since I'm running low on time, is just get it in there, and I can come back and do some fine tuning with the gluing on another pass. So yeah, not so bad. You know, I was a little worried that it wouldn't work, but luckily it was a small piece. And this is really the kind of thing, it seems so simple, but like little things like this really do trip you up, particularly if you're repairing a piece that may be in like 7 or 8 pieces. You really have to think about where you're applying the glue and what order you're putting it together, and all that. But look at that. So I'm just showing you here, like I mix up another batch and I sort of fill in, you know, these cracks, you know, just to make it, you don't want water getting in there. I mean, I do all tropical and warm stuff, so it's not a concern for me. This is never going to freeze, but I still don't want water being able to get into any of these areas and kind of busting it apart. And of course, you know, once this gets solid and dries, I'll flip it around on the bottom and do the same thing. But I'm not gonna make you watch all that. I will kind of go ahead and we'll take a look at the finished product. So here we go on the turntable. You can see it looks pretty good. I mean, you don't see too many $8 pots like this, and I kind of like that little repair work. I think it's kind of stylish. We'll give it a spin. I did some cleanup work on it. I sort of take a, you know, kind of a file or a chisel and sort of make the edges really fine along where the glue was. But you can see it looks good. I got a nice V there. And yeah, I think it kind of gives it a bit of character. And I think this will just make a fabulous pot for our forest. And, you know, for $8, you really can't beat it. So the next thing I want to do is I like to sort of wire these trees in. So I have some wire here. And, you know, I've done this a few different ways. A reader actually sent me an email with what he does, and I was like pretty impressed with that. So I'm going to try that, which basically we just use a wire piece across, and then you kind of tie the other wires into that. And so I'll just snip off some wire here, and I won't show you my setting all that up, but I'll definitely kind of give you the idea here. So this would be the wire that sort of goes across, and then I'll have other wires, you know, kind of hanging off of that. And, you know, I haven't tried this before, but I'm kind of excited to give that a whirl and see how it works. So you can see what I'm going for here. I have this central wire which will go across the pot, and then I'm just wrapping these other wires on it, which will extend, you know, forward and backward in different directions under the soil, so that I can then wire those trees in position. And you know, the thick wire on the bottom will be firmly affixed to the bottom of the pot, so it should hopefully hold them quite firm. So you can see here I've completed my contraption. I just have to affix it to the bottom of the pot, and yeah, so I think you can see how this would work, right? All these wires coming off the side will be used to position and hold my various trees in place so that they don't move around and will not fall out of the pot. So I just need to bend this wire around and attach it to the bottom of the pot, and we should be good to go. So here it is completed. I've got the wires in. I've firmly attached the bottom wire, And I neglected, the astute among you, to put my drainage holes in there, so I'm going to put some screening in, and I'll get some soil, and then we will start assembling the forest. Now, what I do is I sort of generally, I've kind of looked at the trees and I have kind of an idea of who's going where. So I go ahead and try to get these wires, basically where I want them, but of course you can always move them fairly easily because, they're just wire. And, looking at this wire, maybe I should have used a little thicker wire. These trees are pretty big, but I think it'll be all right. I'll probably put some rocks in as well. And, it's kind of fun just designing your forest with wire here, right? Where you sort of think about where they might want to be and just kind of setting space out for the various trees. All right, it's time to pot these up. So just put a little soil in it. This is kind of the magic show portion of the show where we have smoke flying around, smoke and mirrors. And as I said, this soil, it's kind of a new soil. This is it's actually a Shohin mix that I have been experimenting with, but I think it'll be fine for this forest. But it's a much finer mix than what I normally use. But these ports seem to grow in anything, so I'm just putting down a base layer of this, and then we will get to putting the trees in there. Now this pot is it's a little bigger than I thought. Actually, it's taken a fair amount of soil, but I think the trees will appreciate that and grow into it. And as I said, I think this is the main tree. So I'm just going to put a line in the sand and, kind of wire this tree in and, take a good guess about where it might be, and we'll go from there. Now we did take off a reasonable amount of root with these, and I've had great success with my portulacarias and just jades for that matter. If I take a lot off the bottom, then I don't do much to the top because, these trees are very much like a reservoir and they have a lot of energy and nutrition in those leaves to grow new roots. And if you can take both off and it will recover, but it will take it much longer. So typically if I hit the roots hard, I want to keep as many leaves as possible to regrow new roots to get to vibrant health more quickly, and also the reverse, right? If I take a lot of the top off, I want to leave the roots and don't water it so it'll explode with new growth, and then I attack the roots. So this forest, when we're done, I think it'll look great, but it's not going to be what I would call a finished forest because we're not really going to prune this thing. Another aspect of this is, this is sort of a new variety of portulacaria for me, so I also want to see how it grows and responds. So you've seen my excellent wiring job here, and I'll put this on a turntable and put a little soil in here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this much wire in here. I'm not going to bend it or anything. It's really just to hold it in, so I really only need it in the base, but we'll see how stable it is as we move on. But I think that's pretty good for now. I will move on to the secondary tree. And, much like I'm not too concerned with the styling, I just want to get these trees established in here. It's the same thing with the placement. I mean, I'm not going to be pruning these, so it'll be difficult to really determine, exactly where they should go based on their relative sizes. So I want to get them healthy. And probably in the spring or maybe next summer, I will do more fine positioning of them, but I think this will make a good secondary tree. It's probably the second largest tree. It has a nice base, and we'll put this one in next. With this one sort of over to the right and maybe a little bit forward. All these trees are kind of a similar size, but we can update that with pruning in the future. But for now, I think this will be a good placement for it over in this edge, and I'm just trying to figure out what's a good front. So I think this will work quite well, and I think we'll go with that. Just trying to see if I want it a little closer or more towards the edge. As I said before, I'm not going to get too hung up on it. I just want to get the trees in here, get them healthy, and then I can move them around, you know, at a later point after they're more established in the pot. But I think this looks pretty good. I did a little adjustment to the one on the left, and I'm just going to wire this one in. Make it a little tighter than before. I should have used a heavier wire, but I'll just crank down on it a little bit, and I think it will hold it in. It's a great spot for this one. And I'll adjust the angle. I'm going to put a little more soil in here to help make them a bit more steady. And I will, of course, work that in a little bit with some chopsticks. So I think, you know, the height's pretty good for these, and they look great in this pot. I think I just sort of lucked out. I think it really is a good pot for this. And let's try to work this third one in. I think I want to go in this direction. You know, sort of between them, but not dead in the center. You kind of want them to be a bit offset, and I think this looks pretty good. So I'm going to wire this guy in. Wire's a bit long, so I'll just shorten it a bit to get it on there. And yeah, you know, these, you can see there's some long branches here, and so of course, you know, once we get this tree started out right, I will go ahead and prune it like I do to so many of my trees, and we'll get some nice tight growth. But I'll put some more soil in here just to help steady this. And put the next two in, and then we'll kind of take a step back and take a look at the composition as a whole and maybe move things around a little bit. But I'll just work this in a bit now, and yeah, so far I think that looks pretty good. I'm really liking how it's coming together. Readjust the camera here so you can get kind of a sense for, you know, what this looks like. It really is, you know, I've only seen them together as like bunched up in this tiny pot. And I think kind of spreading them out a bit here. It's actually looking pretty good. And I've got this small one, which I think I'm going to put, I was thinking about the corner over there, but I think it looks a lot better on this side. I really like that placement, so I think we'll put it right in here. And yeah, I think that looks great. And I'll try to work the roots in a bit here. Probably needs a little more soil. I mean, you can obviously see where I might want to do some pruning here, like this straight up bit. Is not going to make it in the final composition after this tree recovers, but you know, I really want to leave as much foliage on as possible right now to help grow roots and get this these trees, you know, kind of firmly established in this soil. And the soil, I kind of skipped over it. This is my first soil where I'm sort of using an akadama component with my portulacaria. I had a bunch of discussions, you know, with different people on YouTube connections and others, and you know, they really like akadama in their mix. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna try some of that in there, and you know, we'll see how it goes. And I think the final tree I'm going to put in that back corner. That seems like a good place. This is the tree that has a little bit of a problem. I'm just going to give this one a bit more of an adjustment. But the final tree has a bit of reverse taper, but I don't think it'll be too much of a problem, particularly if I put it in the back, and you know, that'll be something I can work on later and see how I can resolve that. And you know, it's not like you don't see trees with reverse taper in nature, so it's not a complete aberration to have that anyhow. You just don't want it to look to be extremely obvious and out of place, particularly. So let's put the last tree in. This is the final one, and I'm just going to wire it in. You know, it looks great. It's kind of a big tree, and we'll see. I mean, I'll probably over time, once these establish health, I'll take some cuttings, and you can see I've got some long bits, which will serve great to put as smaller trees here in the back, and then, you know, we can sort of work on that over time, and these root so easily. So I'm just going to dump some soil in now and sort of work everything in, and we'll take a look at it. And while I'm doing that, let's review our budget, shall we? So the tree is $5. The pot, $8. The soil, it's tough to say. Let's call it $5, something like that. Maybe $2 worth of wire and, maybe $2 to $3, or maybe it's $2 for the glue if you want to add all that in. So we're around $22. Let's just call it $25. And so we're under budget, and that looks pretty good. So I will just drop some soil in here. And I don't know. I think this is quite an impressive tree, even from the back here. For less than $25. I'm quite happy with it, and I can't wait to see how it evolves in the future. And as I look at this, maybe that tree in the back should be a bit more to the right, or maybe the front head on. We'll take a look at that when I'm done here. But you can see each tree, you can see the trunks. I've got kind of a nice clearing in the middle of them here, which is a style I haven't done with any of my forests before, and so I think I'm kind of liking it. I may put, maybe I'll be inspired by Nigel Saunders and put like an old car or something in there. We'll see as it goes forward. But I think for now I'm really happy with how this is coming together, and I am just gonna use my spoon / chopstick and work the soil into these roots. There's not a whole lot of roots here, but I want to, try to get the tree to feel a bit firm in there. So I will just work some of this in. And you can see it's a very fine soil, so it easily just kind of goes in and fills gaps. And I think it'll work pretty well. So here we go. I'm coming into the home stretch. I can see, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with how it's come out. So we're going to put some finishing touches on here, and then we will take a victory lap. And of course, I have some parting thoughts. But I think first, I want to put a few rocks in here. I think it looks good the way it is. I'm a little concerned they're a little wobbly, so I'm just going to stick. I like to put 3 rocks in per tree. I find that holds them pretty well. And these, I'm just totally seeing these as temporary, so I'm just kind of chucking them in here, and then I'll kind of put some soil around them, and I find that tends to look pretty good and holds them in quite sturdily. And I don't know, I kind of like the rocks. Now these, I don't really have a family of rocks. I'm kind of running low on rocks, so I'm just taking whatever I've got here and putting them in. But even that, I find it looks pretty decent no matter what kind of rocks you use. So yeah, I'll put those in and see what I've got here. Try to pick some that match, but I've done so much repotting lately. It's sort of like sort of summer and end of summer. It's kind of like spring when you're dealing with succulents, because they put on so much growth. They've taken a little break in the heat of summer, and now they're just growing like crazy. So it's sort of like, for most deciduous trees and conifers, everyone's working in super early spring or even late winter, and this is kind of like, that's my time where it's just insanely busy getting all these trees set up. So that's why I don't have that many rocks. So I'll have to go on a bit of a rock hunt here soon. But yeah, I've got some rocks in there now. I think it kind of gives it a little bit of more character. I'll just work these in a bit. It definitely helps to sort of tap the rocks in, and then also apply a little bit more soil, which I'll do here shortly, just because it makes the rocks look more natural. Like they've been there for a while and they were just placed here or sort of rolled down a hill and crashed into the tree. So kind of gives them some establishment. It also helps to hold the trees in place, and I think it actually helps helps them grow roots. I've definitely noticed I tend to get a lot more um, dense roots, even with Crassula ovata, like right under these rocks. They really kind of like to hang out under that moisture, which coincidentally is kind of like where you want, a lot of your radial surface roots right under the trunk. So I'm a fan. I've just seen it works out pretty well. Now I'm gonna tap these guys in, give it a bit more of a natural look, and then we'll have a look at it. And while I'm finishing that off, I kind of want to talk about the parting thought for the day, and it has a lot to do with these golden bargains that could be found, and to me, I really think that comes down to bonsai hobbyists are all about seeing the possibilities. Like somebody sees a half dead plant and for a couple bucks, and they're like, why bother? But we sort of see the trunk, and maybe we see some little spark of something that we know can turn into a decent plant. And it's really about optimism. I think to be a bonsai hobbyist or artist, you really do have to, you're kind of thinking about the future, and what things will be, and really think about the possibilities of working with what's in front of you. And let me pan out a little and look at this. Yeah, I mean, I am super impressed. I mean, who would think for under $25, $22 is what I think we actually came out to, you could have such a beautiful bonsai forest. I am just so tickled pink with how well this has turned out. And I absolutely love the kintsugi here. Well, it's time. I know you've been waiting for it. It's time for the victory lap. So here we go. I am just so happy with this. And, as far as aftercare, I think I've mentioned, I'm just going to let this really dry out because I want to make sure those cuts I made to the roots have time to heal before I start exposing them to water. But I will mist the leaves daily. I mean, again, that's some people say that doesn't work. I have found the complete opposite to be true. I think jades really like that, particularly when they're in this situation. And I'll expose it to bright light, sort of indirect light, and then over time, I'll give it more light. But yeah, I'm super happy with this, and I think it's just fabulous, and a fabulous find for less than $25. And that's a wrap for today. And I want to thank you for spending time with me. And I will see you all again very, very soon.